Thank you for the introduction, Machango. And I think, Machango, thank you for the great introduction. I think I should be going everywhere with you. If I get introduced the way you have everywhere, then I think I'll be very, very far very quickly. Thank you for that, and it's good to meet everybody on the call this morning. I had a wonderful, wonderful time last time with the group that we had a brief conversation with. Just by a show of hands, who was part of this? I see some familiar names, but then I just want to do a quick round to see who we've already met with. You can just use the controls on your screen. Oh, hi, Ruth. I wish I could just quickly see who else was on that conversation. Okay. I think majority of people we are meeting for the first time. It's great to meet with all of you. I think mine is to share some very brief perspectives about my own view about tech and enterprise and the workplace and people. It's one topic really because it's very difficult to do tech on its own without people. And it's also difficult to do tech alone without an enterprise or business or organizational setting. So this, if you visualize this as a three-legged stool, then you'd see that each of them contribute to the well-being of the whole. And without any of the three, then I do not think you're going to have a very stable stool. I'm going to share a presentation that I have. Just let me know if you can see my screen. Can you all see my screen? And I'm one of those people who like feedback from the audience. So if you can hear me, thumbs up. If you cannot hear me, thumbs down. If you're following along, yeah, just let me know. Or if there's an area that is a bit sticky or unclear, let me know as well. I'm happy to go over this again. Okay, so my presentation today is going to be about tech and people in the enterprise development context. I think, Machango, you mentioned that that's the session we are in right now. But I'll first of all do a quick intro. You've already been told my name and we can connect on LinkedIn. But in summary, my work is in technology and digital transformation over the last 20 years. But my main goal is around empowering Africa's people through innovation and tech-driven change. So at the core of this is a belief that if you've got a digital device that's connected to the internet, and thirdly, that you know how to read and write, then you can be anyone, you can be anything, and you can drive your own freedom, you can drive your own learning, you can drive your own dignity, especially because of just having a digital device, internet access, and ability to read and write. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world, it doesn't matter your background, but as long as you've got a way to read and write and a digital device and a way to connect with other people, then the rest is up to you. And because of that, I believe that for our generation, anybody that is alive today, doesn't matter your age, but then if you're alive in 2025, then tech for you is probably the most significant driver for bringing about growth for yourself, freedom for yourself, dignity for yourself, and for the people around you. And that sort of flattens the playing field for everyone. Yeah, just those three things can potentially get you anywhere you want to be as an individual, as long as you know how to do it right. So I'm going to be speaking about these topics, but then in the context of the fact that enterprise growth, therefore, is working at the intersection of good tech and very, very strong people. So the premise that you can use tech to drive value, to drive freedom, to drive personal agency, personal results, and things like this, then means that in the corporate or enterprise setting, then these three things, as I mentioned before, work together in an intersection, which you can visualize as a three-legged stool. And the questions I'd like to discuss today are around, for example, if you're a leader, how can you then use technology? And how can you then empower people, or why is that important? And tech does not work in isolation, it works with data. And the better data you have, the more meaningful the tech that you're using is to you. And I will give you an example of a client of ours, which I will call NGOX. That's not the real name, of course, but then we will refer to them as NGOX, which is a nonprofit. And just some highlights from some work we did together some years ago, and how that then is a way to show tech working across multiple organizational levels and what the result of that has been so far. I would like to pause at that point for any questions, any reactions, any expectations that anybody on the call would like me to cover in the context of this topic. Yeah, you're welcome to put any on the chat. Machango, may I ask that you help me with that? If there are any questions that are popping up at this point, you can just alert me to that, because I'm on full screen. I'll not be able to see them yet.
Sure, I will do that.
All right, cool, thanks. All right, now getting into the context and the full content of this. So why is this important? So I mentioned before that tech, and if you have, and I'll say this many times, that if you know how to read and write, and you know how to access the internet, and you've got a smart device of any type, it doesn't have to be a particular type or size or whatnot, but then as long as you have those three things, then really you've got everything you need to make meaning out of life today. But why is this important? It is important because today the world is looking for leaders that are both digital savvy and people-centric. So there's a general principle that the most successful companies and the most successful movements and the most successful political formations, religious formations, any kind of grouping of people that is working towards a common goal must have at its core an imperative to be digitally savvy. So it doesn't matter whether you're a manufacturing company, whether you're a sports organization, whether you're a media company, whether you're a hospital, hotel, it doesn't matter really what your core business is. In the middle of this somewhere, the most successful enterprises and groups and movements and collections of people are those that have learned to be digitally savvy. So this is important. And you can be digitally savvy as long as you already know how to read and write. That's really the starting point. If you already have that, you're well on your way. The rest is on you. All right? And if you have access to the internet, you're well on your way to being digitally savvy. The rest really relies on your efforts in that regard. And then number two, in Africa, if you look at the continent, and I'll be sharing some highlights, some third-party highlights on this, the combination of people and tech has never been more important than it is in 2025. And the reasons for that are many, but just quick ones is we've got on average among the youngest demographics anywhere in the world. What that means is you've got youth, you also have youth that is well educated, and you have people that are well educated, well exposed, and they have grown up with tech. So this alone is very useful in the context that a lot of people today that lead organizations, a lot of people my generation, people in their 40s and 50s and 60s and onwards, are people that came to learn about tech in their adult years. So for example, I only learned to properly use a computer when I was perhaps 18. But my 10-year-old learned to use a digital device probably in his first or second year. As long as he could make the sense out of things around him, he could already use a device. So in that context, that's somebody who's got at least 15 years head start in being digital savvy. And that applies to many other people around the continent, that they are young, energetic, well-educated, but more importantly, that they have grown up with digital in some form or shape. It doesn't have to be complex, but then they've grown up with social media, they've grown up with smartphones, they've grown up with smart TV, they've grown up with the internet generally at school or somewhere in the community or in their homes. So when you mix good, young, vibrant, well-educated, and digital savvy, then you create a very, very important ingredient for personal freedom and personal dignity. And that then is a very, very important part of developing enterprises and groups and movements and other groups of human endeavor that are then very well grounded as humans, as well as being digitally savvy. Okay? And the power of tech, therefore, is that with tech, I know you know this, but I'll say it again and again and again. That like Steve Jobs said that technology is a bicycle of the mind. What that means is that anything you are doing, if you're running a small business, a barber shop, a salon, a restaurant, fashion business, whatever it is you're doing, with tech, that helps you reach more people. It helps you move quicker and just be smarter about how you're going about your business. Yeah. So that really is the power at the very fundamental level. That really is the power of tech. And we have not even talked about, more advanced technology on AI, on larger systems and things like this. But then everyday tools like WhatsApp, Canva, Google Suite, be it Forms, be it your ability to build free websites on Google, your ability to build a full business solutions on Google for free, your ability to run very advanced AI, tools for free on Google, for example, are game changers. And the same as a lot of tools that are available to anybody that can access them on a smart device and has an internet connection on Microsoft, for example, and other tools that are given as part of your mobile experience out of the Play Store. Many of those tools can benefit you in a way to advance whatever initiative, whatever business, whatever community endeavor that you're doing in a way that gets you there quicker, faster, and smarter. That really is a basic principle in this. But the most important thing is not that the tools are available, but the most important thing about this is that you're flipping the conversation from away from the tools and flipping that conversation into a conversation of personal agency. Now that I know that I have WhatsApp within which I can advertise and reach people and build a community for free, and I can use Canva to create documents, to articulate my message, to mobilize action for free. and use Google and Microsoft and Apple and other Android tools that are available publicly for free. I think that's to be taken for granted in the sense that the more important element of this is that you as a leader at whatever level you are, leading yourself or leading a group that is around you or leading your community or leading a corporate organization, as many clients are, the most important is to know what to make with these tools. So it's like having a toolbox. You have screwdrivers, you have hammers, you've got a saw, you've got glue, you've got all these things in that toolbox. But then what are you going to create? Are you going to create something of wood or something of metal or plastic or, whatever substrate? And who are you then going to create those things for? All right. So if you visualize these tech tools as things that are in a toolbox, then how are we going to utilize those to then create value for ourselves and for the people around us? So essentially what I'm saying in all this, that is that we have a responsibility to then start where we are using what we have. For those who remember the story about Moses and his commission to liberate the people of Israel from captivity, he was not asked about advanced tools and weapons and things like that when the Lord spoke to him, but he was asked, Mister, what do you have with you today? And you all remember that he had a stick or a staff, as some people call it. And with that, then he was able to start his work at the point that he was at that moment. So look around yourself, and I invite you to look around. If you have a device, if you have a computer, if you have a list of contacts, that is data. If you've got a list of ideas, that is more data. If you've got access to some tools, digital tools, again, what do you have in your hand? And what are you going to use it for? Okay, I promised you some stats or some ideas around, um, some numbers of, for example, the internet economy and its potential in Africa. So we are looking at 180 billion US worth of an internet economy future. And you're looking at a vast population that is likely to have doubled in 20 years from 2019 to 2050. 45% of who are in urban areas. Yeah. And of this, the baseline is 700,000 developers in Africa in 2019. And a lot of investment in infrastructure, in connectivity, in last mile internet, in public Wi-Fi, in all manner of digital infrastructure investment. For example, the Kenya government is planning to do 100,000 kilometers of fiber optic connectivity. They're probably at 25% of that at the present moment. But then in the short term, there's massive, massive infrastructure investment happening. There's also massive pro-innovator regulation that's happening. So, for example, AFC's FTA, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, has proposed a lot of digital economy best practices and policy that then benefit whoever is willing to leverage such a big market to improve themselves, to improve their communities, and to improve their businesses and grow large tech-savvy companies from anywhere within this Africa Free Continental Free Trade Area. And this is a collection of a number of countries. I'm sure you guys are well aware of this. If not, I invite you to just have a look at what the opportunities in this space are going to be. There is, for example, strategy on Africa of 2063. What will this continent look like? I know it looks far, but then at that point, everybody in this room is going to have worked for 30 years at least. Yeah, and they'll be looking back and saying, did we actually take advantage of the opportunities that were available when we were young? So this is how big an Africa you're looking at. It's big money, big plans, but then a lot of this power resides in young people that have grown with digital tools. Because with digital, that's the only way you can accelerate to reach multiple markets. I have had the distinct advantage and luck, I would say, to work in multiple countries in the region. And many of them look to Kenya as a place where innovation and digital and tech and, advancements in those areas are very well grounded. So with such a perception across the continent, the question to you, and I'm inviting you to reflect on this question. With these opportunities, what are you doing about it yourself? And my starting point is, if you can read and write, if you've got internet connection, and if you've got a smartphone or any other smart device today, you really are having everything you need to be part of this internet economy of the future. Okay? It doesn't warrant an answer now, but then as personal reflection, you know how to read and write, you can connect, and you're aware of this opportunity. What are you doing about it so that in 2060 or in 2063, you can look back and say, I knew these things and I made the best use of them. Number two, and this touches on people specifically. So this is primarily a digital opportunity. But then this here is a digital skills opportunity. Now, these are two sides of a similar coin. They work hand in hand, as we spoke before. But then how does the ability to work within the digital ecosystem or the digital future or the digital economy rely on other skills that are very important that you already have? So, for example, to what extent are things to do with problem solving, general problem solving, not solving digital problems, just solving problems around you? Yeah. Things to do with communication, things to do with creativity, things to do with collaborating with other people, leading yourself, leading other people, negotiation, solving problems, solving conflicts, etc. And you'll see that this is a big, big part of all the skills that are needed. If you were to succeed in the marketplace today, you'd need a whole quantum of skills, of which digital skills is only one part. Are you with me? All right. So what that means is that if you already have had the advantage of a college education, what this means is that you've got a large proportion of all the kinds of skills you need to thrive within the digital economy. And if you already started on digital skills, of course, digital skills need to be kept fresh. Even I that worked for 20 years, I have to keep learning things almost every week. Yeah. On digital, on new ways, on trends, on what's happening in other places, on easier ways, quicker ways, cheaper ways, more advanced ways to do stuff. But then the message out of this slide is for AOLF people, especially that have had the advantage to lead or to develop their leadership skills, their collaboration, their interpersonal creativity, communication skills, etc. You're well on your way to succeeding within this economy. Again, I invite you to think about, what are you then going to do with this? Okay. So why do people and culture matter? So when we build technology for corporates, a lot of that initiative, if it's set up as a program or a project to, for example, set up business systems, business software, infra, etc., most times the technology elements are well defined. So you'll have a list, for example, of 1,200 different features that a particular solution should do, or 800 features, or whatever number of features across different departments and different function areas. So at the beginning of that project, you know that I have to deliver 1,200 different dimensions of a particular solution. Now, a lot of that delivery and the technical work that goes into that probably constitutes at most 30% of the whole effort to bring to life a particular software or large-scale system or a suite of different products. 70% relies on readiness of people and culture. So for example, if the solution is world-class, it's working in Europe, it's working in the States, it's working in other markets, but you have not properly trained the people that are going to use this solution, then you'll do the setups in a year, half a year, you'll have the setups ready, but there will be nobody to use it or to use it properly. If the culture is such that people don't rally around behind common initiatives and common goals, again, somewhere along the way, what's going to happen is that project will start experiencing problems because you don't have adequate support from the people within the organization to then bring this to life. So people and culture, especially in a tech transformation journey, especially in any conversation on tech, is probably a lot more critical than the technology that you're implementing itself. And tech works best when it's helping people meet their objectives, not when it's confusing to them. All right? Which then means that good leadership and teamwork is what then makes tech successful, so that you're adopting tech to work at your service. So if we were to draw parallels with fire, the fire is only useful if you know how to safely work with it, you know how to properly start it, you know how to properly direct that fire, and you know how to properly get the best value. If you're cooking something, you're doing a barbecue, whatnot, you're, preparing a meal. If you do not know or understand how fire operates, then it will very quickly turn into a liability for you and the people around you. So it's the same thing in tech. It works best if it's helping people achieve their goals, not when it's scary or confusing to them. Okay. I'd like to pause there. I think there are comments somewhere or questions. Are there?
On the chat, there are no comment or question, but guys can proceed to raise your hands and place your comments or questions.
Okay, thank you. All right. So we are looking at a case where our NGO X works across Kenya and Uganda, working in the community to derive last mile community health. And we were working with our client to then introduce a mobile platform with which then people living among the community can then dispense medicine, get patient data, drive, for example, healthy practices on hygiene, antenatal care, and later during COVID, a lot of coordination of local communities around COVID and the logistics around that. So in this, we found that one of the things that struck me the most was that a large majority, probably 90% plus, of these community health workers were primarily ladies of different backgrounds, of different ages, of different education levels. but then it was primarily ladies that were very well respected in their communities, in the communities that they lived within and which they were serving. But then I asked, so how come not very many men do this work? That was one of the things I was curious about. And then I asked, so what then does it take for you to be a successful community health worker in a digital context? And then somebody said to me, oh, you know what? In a lot of places where it's low income and things like that, um, the reality is that if somebody is able to adopt the digital solutions and the digital, for example, the mobile tools that were being used to run this operation within the local communities, then that gives them a sense of belonging and a sense of purpose within that community. Because with that device, they are then able to get, for example, tips, advice, trends, a certain kind of information that would ordinarily not be available if they did not have access to that mobile technology. So what that then means is that the people around them hold them in a certain regard because they see that so-and-so has data that is helpful to us as a community. And they are accepted, they are respected as a thought leader and as a leader within their community on account of the kind of information that they then can share with their community, much of which is distributed to them across a particular health mobile system. And this is thousands and thousands and thousands of people in this country and across in Uganda, actually many more in Uganda than in Kenya at the time. But then the one thing that stood out for me is the level of dignity and respect and meaning that just having this kind of information and access would then create for the person doing this work within their community. And on the technical side, so it was basic mobile platform connected to some core systems with which then people would record their visits to homesteads, collect information on illnesses, child health, use of hygiene, things like soap, things to do with mosquito nets, things that day-to-day families use. And with that, then how are they then using this data to improve the lives of the communities around them? Very, very basic tech at that level, at the field level, but then connected to more advanced tech at a core, which was then managing that data and then being used to make decisions. But then that rudimentary basic mobile tech was changing lives in ways that had not been seen before. It was, unprecedented in some of the areas where people that did not have a medical background, they didn't go to nursing school or medical school or any other formal medical training, but then with just a mobile device driven solution, they were then able to change the lives of the people around them. Okay, so in all this, people are the engine. Even if you build really good tech and you didn't have people, as I've said before, tech is just a tool. It's only the people that bring empathy, the creativity, the resilience, the trust. Yeah, it's not so much the mobile device, it's the person that interprets that for their community, for example, that then creates value for that community. And with that, they can then be more meaningfully engaged because they are valued by the communities that they serve in that capacity. Yeah. So with that tech, there's actually real on-the-ground impact that can be validated to this day across the two countries. So in all this, the only message I have is here. Starting where we are, so it's the ladies in the community. Yeah, it's not about waiting for a job in another city that I'll wait until, for example, I have a college education and I can get a job in Mombasa or in Kampala, but it's within my own community. How can I use tech? to bring dignity, using what I already have where I am today. Okay? All right. So I would want to invite you to some reflection questions. And you're welcome to write them down or to share them in a chat or to take them away as reflection questions. So for yourself, yeah? And I encourage you to just pull out a piece of paper right now, if you have one, and a pen, or if you prefer to write notes on your device, that's well and good. But I invite you to reflect on these questions. Yeah, but first at the top of that where you're writing the answers, I would want to invite you to frame this as a letter to yourself. So if your name is Charles, like it is for me, dear Charles, what tools and strategies did you come up for a project that you're doing that uses tech? Or how will you apply this in the future on a project that's useful to you and the people that are around you? Number 2, again, dear Charles, dear Mary, dear Josephine, dear Ruth. Yeah, what challenges do you anticipate using tech starting today, with the tech that you have today, to solve the problems that you have today in the place that you are today? So what challenges do you anticipate to find there? All right, write it down and say, dear Mary, I think I will have the following challenges. All right. And the last one is, again, I invite you to consider the principle that if you've got a digital device and you're literate and you've got internet connection, that alone is enough to get you started in your journey to significance. So the question you should then write is, dear John, or dear Paul, or dear Philip, or dear Anne, dear Elizabeth, dear Charles, how can I apply this thinking in my own leadership today? All right. So I invite you to reflect on those 3 questions, but then addressing them to yourself as a leader in the scope and in the place and in the context that you currently are a leader. Finally, please remember that tech only gives you the tools, but it's people that give you the power, right? And data gives you direction. It's a connection between the tech and the meaning that you're trying to get out of that. Data really is the fuel for that. Number 2, this is very important. What do you have in your hand? So you don't need big money. Bold ideas are enough. And the smart tools and the right people around you. Starting with yourself, be the right person yourself, first of all. But then using the tools that you presently have. You don't need big money or to wait to be somewhere else or to be with some other people. Yeah, you don't need big money to get started with tech today. Yeah, so start where you are and lead with purpose and build something that you grow with others. I thank you very much for your time, and I'd like to stop here, Muchango.